But yeah, so we're all welcome to join us in the conversation. Of course, we could not start by asking you about what we just saw. I couldn't say the title when I announced it, but you can share it.
Yeah.
And then you can tell us a bit how you came about, what is the work about for you personally and as an artist.
Yeah, so the title of the performance is Oh Bondage Up Yours, and it's a reference to a punk song by X-Ray Specs. I don't know if anyone knows X-Ray Specs. And she starts the song, I think that some people say little girls should be seen and not heard, but I think, oh, bondage up yours. And I love her. But I also love that, exploring that concept of little girls should be seen and not heard. And not just girls, like just how a lot of us silence our voices. And actually, not just that, the way that we sort of we do it ourselves. It was something that was kind of done in society. This message, little girls should be seen and not heard. But now it's so much that it's something that we sort of self-police our own selves. Nobody needs to tell us you're doing too much. We walk around thinking, we're not doing too much. Nobody needs to tell us you need to speak quietly. It's just so So it was just born out of that, and that's something I suppose personally that's been a personal story of mine throughout my life. I mean, I am naturally a very loud person. Anyone who knows me knows that. But it's also that kind of self-silencing has been a huge part of my life. It only took me this long to kind of even present my art in this way because of that kind of self-silencing. So it's it's all the things that keep inside.
And so you basically were saying it took me a while to actually be able to show my work in this way. So it's interesting because there are a few instances where you spoke in public or you gave an interview and you said something about, I've always made art, I've been practicing since I remember as a person. But interestingly, the work, that we are showing here is made in the last 2 or 3 years, 24, 25, and even this month, even this week, probably you were finishing the dress this week. So what happened then? How is that I've been making art for many years, but somehow I can't show it. I've not been showing it. Is it for personal reasons, practical, intellectual, emotional?
I think it's it's part of the whole story of this actual work I'm showing is the reason I haven't shown is in this. Do you know what I mean? And it's that's all linked to. It's mainly emotional. And it's mainly personal. And it's mainly again linked as the Latifa with the confidence. I'm self-taught, so I didn't go to art school. So it's there's a big kind of feeling there of I need to be something else to do this. I always thought, and people have been telling me, it's not that I thought I was bad or not capable, but I thought I needed something else, and my own self-doubt, I would look elsewhere at other things and think, it needs to be this and it needs to be this. So I just didn't have the confidence to actually, really simplistically, to actually just be myself and put myself out there until I got older. And I think it's common to a lot of women. She just I just can't be bothered not to be myself anymore. I actually don't have the energy. So it's you either accept who you are and go forth. And I'm speaking as a woman, so I don't know for it's not if you non-binary people as for men. Maybe the same experience is true, but you do get to a point where you're just let me, I just had to qualify myself. And you realise that that's way more important than any judgment or any acceptance into any sort of world, And so I just did that. And it took that long, actually.
Oh. And you just said you are self-taught. So, this is how artists who self-describe or are described by society living engaged in formal academic training.
Yeah.
And today are either parents. So, of course, that we know that historically artists who are self-taught somehow have more difficulties in having their work presented, whether it's in visual arts or in theater or in dance. More and more these boundaries are being blurred, although majority of practitioners are still formally trained and so on. What does that mean to you? Do you feel that was a barrier in terms of developing your
I think
career, not practice, or it doesn't really matter?
only in some ways, a very like practical ways, I suppose. Like once I just, it was a barrier in the sense of my own internal monologue about it. But once I got over myself, it was only a barrier in the sense of not having a specific type of language that maybe other people have. So but if you find people like finding you, finding me, like finding Deej, like finding these people that will like help you to like navigate and say things, and maybe perhaps you say it this way, perhaps you say it that way, and you realise it's just a language that you don't know, and it's just learning that language. So yes, but it's a very practical thing that once I think you get your confidence level up and go, okay, I can do this, like.
And do you feel that that was happening in parallel with your life story, or do you think that being someone with a Sri Lankan heritage in Ireland doesn't really impact on how you are perceived or accessed?
I think that impacts more than being self-taught artist. I think being, not that people are anti-Sri Lankan or anything like that, but I think like it's just like, I suppose how I feel like for me is like, you know, you're coming in here with all these kind of a cluster of things that are maybe quite not the necessarily done way, I suppose. It's like, and it's not that people aren't accepting of you. I think there is like a yearning in Ireland for these things. There's definitely people who are like wanting to like encourage people who maybe come from like slightly more diverse like backgrounds in any which way. There's definitely the need, but there's like all these kind of gaps in that need. So there's like the people who want to do something, but then we don't know what to do. And then there's some people that do know, and so it's like a learning thing that I'm probably, you know, and everybody, we're probably at the beginning of that. So yes and no, you know, it's like.
So for those who don't know you, either because they are your family, relatives, or friends, tell us a bit more about your life story, because I just mentioned that you have Sri Lankan heritage. Actually, your mother is here today.
Yeah, so my mom is Sri Lankan, and my dad was Dutch-German, and he was a Holocaust survivor. My dad's passed away now. But yeah, we grew up, so I had this kind of diverse, like seemingly quite interesting background, but we grew up in a very, very normal, mundane, like suburban place in the south of England. So it was this very strange combination of like something kind of quite unusual with this kind of, you know, historical story that at the time, you know, everybody was kind of talking about Holocaust and Schindler's List, and it was every history lesson was that in England. So it was this unusual household of this kind of bubble of stuff, but in this very seemingly, I mean, it was normal, but, you know, seemingly suburban place, quite conservative, like, you know, quite middle class, like, so it was a very odd situation.
And it took time for you to adjust, or you never felt it within? So you always say things that are being within and outside, being within and out, being an insider and an outsider.
Yeah.
What kind of experience being part of the diaspora, because your mom from Sri Lanka lived in the UK?
You get like a very like one foot in, one foot out kind of experience. If you, especially if you're like me, I sound how I sound. You know, I've had experiences where I've got into bats of taxis on the land's gone, not really looked at me. So I was expecting somebody brown from your name, and it's like it's because he's heard my voice. So it's like I was kind of half accepted in some ways because I was one of the good ones, but then my mum is my mum, and my mum doesn't speak how I speak, and she has a Sri Lankan accent, so it's like you get a lot of this weird kind of racism that exists that people don't often talk about, which is this like, oh, but not you. Yeah. You know, and it's like you left with this very like, I'm in but I'm out, you know, so you're in your own space. That's like.
And when you transitioned to Ireland, did it change, or it kind of had a similar experience?
It actually kind of changed because in England people are much more aware that I'm mixed race, and mixed race is like, I think because there's less mixed race. This might be completely inaccurate, but I feel like there's less mixed race people in Ireland than there are in England. Yes? I don't know the statistic. Yeah. I say sometimes, you know, you say things like that.
And this room is the sample?
Yeah. So there's more monoracial people in Ireland, whereas in England there are a lot of mixed race people. So, but what happens then in Ireland is people don't realise I'm mixed. They assume me to be brown. They say, well, where are you from? And I say, well, I'm from England. They're like, but where, not where they actually don't believe I'm actually, but, I'm half this and I'm half one, half mixed and multi-heritage.
Yes.
And they think they're just, you're Sri Lankan, you're Sri Lankan, you're Sri Lankan. It's like, I am, but I'm not,
Yeah. And how does that kind of multi-heritage then, do you think, shape the art that you've been making?
Like, so much, I think, is like about, I think that a lot of the art I make is like, obviously, like, it's not, I don't think it's like a clash of cultures, it's like making its own space to exist in, its own thing, like because that's how I think it feels to be in that environment. That's how it certainly felt for me. It's like I'm not, and it's not in that typical way. You get a lot of people kind of say, "Oh, I'm not brown enough. I'm not white enough." I never gave about that. Like I don't want to be in the club. Like I am what I am. I'm not half of something or half of the other thing. I am this whole other thing, And so the art, it's a whole other thing. But it's like,
yeah. So yeah, let's say this, for instance. Through our conversations, there are a few motifs that are recurring and that are recurring in the work that we can identify and speak a bit about that. And some of them have to do with this script with your Sri Lankan heritage, or cultures of from South or Central Asia.
Yeah.
And particularly, okay, you were born in England, and the history of the empire has strong connections, and there's, as you said, which doesn't necessarily apply the conversation and discussions to Ireland, but they're in a different way. Say, for instance, there is one artwork here in this exhibition, in this room, that small mask there in the middle. It's one of the early works we have in the exhibition. Can you tell us a bit about the title and how this motif of the mask that then evolved, as we can further discuss it, speaks to your Sri Lankan heritage?
Yeah, so this mask is called Belonging, and I think listening to what you're talking about now, it's not something I necessarily consciously think about, but I think. So in Sri Lanka, there are these masks called sani masks and cotton masks. You'd like masks? Well, there she is. There are these masks, and they use them for like healing, and it's like spiritual healing or like actually sometimes physical healing. And they have like these devil dances, and and I remember Mum has one story that she would always tell me about. The witch doctor came to the village to heal somebody of an ailment, and anyway, that was some of the story stuck in my head. And this mask, so I started exploring this idea of like masks in that context. And I think actually when I'm thinking now with Miguel, it was like when you are from that like mixed and multi-heritage like background, but you're in this place which is like, suburban white England, it's like a very thin grasping at a culture, which I think is like quite relatable to Ireland. It's like trying to grasp back these things that like have kind of been taken away from you, whether that's because of your placement in a different country or whether that's because of colonization. But it was like me trying to grasp hold of something that I could make a connection with, and masks felt like something that I could easily make that connection with.
Yes. But you also speak about masks in a different way, around like concepts of masking in society.
Yeah.
Can you speak about that?
Well, because at the same time that I was making some of these masks was the same time that I got the diagnosis of being neurodivergent. And I didn't get that diagnosis and then make the mask. I was making them already. So it was like this whole discovery, putting in my own brain, oh, maybe that's why you like masks, ding, like, it's like it was just self-discovery. And then I continued just to follow that kind of idea as well, but in combination with all these sorts of things. Because I think as well as the lines of those kind of things are very blurry. If anyone knows, if you're neurodivergent, like you often will be like non-gender conforming, of course, but again, if you're mixed race as well, it's like you're masking all the time. You're masking all the time different kind of, your different kind of cultures. And you're like, whatever, joining in with this and then joining in with that. So it was something that was natural to me anyway.
And one of the latest works, not one of the first works that has been made presented here, but one of the latest, it's actually the latest one, is this image here with the suitcase and the shoes, which then speak to, so I mean, the depiction is of a person sitting in this kind of blurry landscape with also a mask on their face.
Yeah.
We don't know whether it's a man or a woman or one gender conforming person, but this actually now speaks to your father and your father's heritage.
Yeah, so this
life story as well.
Yeah, it's called Leo, and my dad, we knew my dad as Hans Bolle, and my dad's real name would have been Leo Deneboom, and his dad was also called Leo. So my dad was obviously, as again when we're talking about masking, my dad hid the fact that he was a Holocaust survivor for many years from my mum, and I didn't find out that till I was 14. So there was this very undercover, something's wrong with this house, and nobody really could put their finger on what it was. So I wanted to give Leo, the actual man, his kind of moment of the piece, which he never really got through this photo. So these are Dad's actual clogs, his actual suitcase, and they're the ones in the photo. And then the plant is not the actual plant that they because it's not the actual plant that they had when they were married. It's the same plant that they would have got when they were married. And it's in this kind of blurry context. He loved the outdoors. He loved this freedom, and in so many ways he was this really free man. But all of this trauma kept him so trapped. And the mask is a reference to the Jewish kind of caricatures. It's kind of incorporating in a reclamation of those kind of caricatures, giving in this really peaceful kind of setting.
So here we have, it's very tempting to identify biographical details and see how they translate to artwork, although not all artwork is made or informed by biographical details. But there is a trend in contemporary art today that has a lot of the kind of looks at how biography and novel fiction associated with that then fuses and, it is directly engaging with what artists are doing. Mm-hmm. So I would like to liberate you a bit from having to tell so much of your personal history, because I know it's interesting and fascinating and it's, kind of translates into the work. But the work also has a lot of process and psychological dimensions. So it's also interesting to see, of course, the fact that you work with textiles, different techniques, French needle, crochet, and we all know about how there is a gendered association with textiles being female, how across history in art and in society, the division between arts and crafts has to do lots with that, really. And not all work made in textiles and contemporary art is made by women or non-men, but a lot is. And there is this process of reclamation of textiles methodology in this process. Tell us about how you embrace textiles and how that started to become maybe the core medium of the independent, whether you make images or performances or sounds. Textiles are somehow always present in that way.
So I suppose first, so the reason textiles are always present, this is the simplest part of the thing, I suppose, is that I make the work because it's a way to feel good. So it's really simple, but it's if without that, because a lot of people said to me, oh, did you do that yourself? And for me, it's of course I did it myself. That's 90% of my art is the need to do it myself, because I am, in a way, it's very selfish like that. It's I'm doing it to feel right. It's I need to get up, and I know a lot of people who I know who are sewers. You need to get up and sew. You need to get up and crochet. You need to get up and make. I have that need. So textiles was a perfect thing to do that with. Whereas when I was doing other forms of art, which I do love, like painting and sculpture and things like that, there was a lot more. There's a lot more stuff around. You have to sit at your easel. You have to sit in front of your thing. You need the painting. You need the waterwork. I'm a mother of 2 girls. I can do that for a certain amount of time, but it's what I realise is when you're making art, the more I make it, the better I feel. So I want to be making all the time. With textiles, I can be there playing with the girls. I do a little bit here for 5 minutes. I do a little bit there for 5 minutes. You can pick it up. You can come back to it. It can be everywhere in our house. Sorry, but it is, and it can be, And so there was kind of that element to it, but there's also the element of going back to the neurodivergence of I get very, very bored very, very quickly of what I'm making and when I'm making it. So what I found when I was using textiles is there's lots of different materials, there's lots of different things you can use, and it kept me engaged like no other medium has kept me engaged. And I just, I might have 3 or 4 things on the go at once, and I can just flip to the other things. And it means also that because I've created this space where the textiles is at the core, I can do all the other things that I enjoy doing, performing, singing, photography around that. I've got that core that keeps it really engaged. Whereas if I went, no, I'm just going to do performance and not worry about the textiles and that thing might change, whatever, it wouldn't keep me there as focused as this variety does.
I was interested when you said I have a mother and I have the children with me. So it's actually a type of practice that, as you explained, it can be basically labor or occupation of time, but that gives you enough freedom to perform your different roles.
Definitely.
Possibly in the world.
Yeah.
And we also know historically and even today that artists who have children, families have a harder time to actually practice and develop a career, not just in art, but actually in general, but in art this is historically proved. And so it's also interesting as a way of reclaiming that, to just use your daily textile making as actually a way of developing, being with the family, but also, putting someone out there in the world.
Yeah, and it's like, you hear a lot of like artists as well, like, who maybe haven't become mothers or have become mothers, or, I couldn't make the art. I could make if I'd had children or whatever, but actually, like, I don't think I could have made the art without having.
Okay.
I think that it was like it grounded me in something.
Okay. So there's 3 things I also want to touch upon, and I won't forget. But like now, you speak about your children also sometimes feature. In the work, not just intellectually or emotionally, but actually physically. So there's a sequence of photographs in the next door gallery called The Birthday Party, where a character, let's just say, is in dialogue with a young girl who is your child. Although as a viewer, I might not necessarily think about that. Tell us a bit about that. So on one hand, tell us about how do you feel, what's your relationship with your children to an extent where they live with the costumes, they live with the textiles?
They're obsessed with it. They're just like, these monsters here, and then there's one without a head in the other room, and Dini, she's 8, she said, right, when it's finished, I want this one, and the headless one in my room. And we were I was like, okay. I was like, are you sure? She's like, yes, definitely. And then Robbie, our 4-year-old, she's like, there's all the monsters on the floor as well in there. She's named every single one. So they've all got a name on them. So they just, they love it. My husband, Bobby, here too, he's also an artist. They've grown up with straight left. And actually it's made us having kids and then being both artists, it's made it a lot easier that we just expose them to it straight away, so that Dini will wake up in the morning. I've never had to tell her to make something. Here, why do you need to do a bit of colouring? She just goes at it like the clappers. Mum, have you got a box? Mum, have you got this? Have you got this? And it's just because they've grown up with it. And I really think that's, it's the kids. Something red.
And tell us about when you thought about having this sequence, the birthday party, fighting. It's quite powerful. So we have this character, which Shirani calls a monster, and the child wearing Jellico, and there is a sense of a threat sometimes, but there is also a sense of comfort. Particularly, there's an image where they are reading together in beds, and there is one where the child is. There's a case, like blowing candles, celebration. When I saw those images for the first time, I had this feel like, it's completely traumatic, projection of this figure behind it. It's real, is it like my whole nightmares are just emerging.
That makes me so happy.
So tell us a bit like what was behind that series, because there's performances where you appear, and there's this staging, these images that you stage, like one you just described or that one. And tell us about what you were trying to say, because you also speak a lot, and you can see that here, that the domestic space / family home, which we tend to associate with comfort and safety and warmth. But as you described earlier, within your own life experience, having this, growing up in a mixed race household with the life trajectories that you described may also be quite impactful emotionally. So how do you navigate those, the domestic and the psychological, and then the characters coming together and your child in particular?
So, that's a long question. So I think firstly, is what I was saying to you before, is that I think that a lot of my work is personal, comes from a personal narrative. And I said yesterday to Miguel, sometimes I say sweeping statements, especially when I said, well, everybody's trying to recover from their upbringing. Everybody spends their adult life trying to recover from their upbringing. Miguel said, well, not everybody. And I thought, I went home and, what? I said, who was that? Oh my God, lucky you, Miguel.
No, I am.
So, but I thought, that's true. He's right. Not everybody is. But what I realised is like how much we're all shaped by our upbringing, negatively or positively. Good for you. But I realised that I, spent such a long time trying to unravel that, trying to sort out my mind from that, trying to discover the stories of that. And what I realised is when I'm making this work, and the older I get and the more politically engaged I became, the more I realised everything that I took as personal was political. Like, there is no question of it. And I thought about the people that Miguel was telling me about who had a lovely upbringing. And I said, and that's political, because the circumstances that caused this upbringing that we had in our home, from, mum's circumstances in Sri Lankan to dad's circumstances with his Jewish Holocaust background, they were everything that impacted me, that I took on as a personal attack. Now, of course, I'm not saying I'm silly me, I'm a child, that's what you do. But the sooner that we can recognise, collectively, that all of these things are political, the better we will all be for that. So when I make this personal work, all of the work in this room and the other room is personal. And when I'm telling the personal to uncover the political, to reveal the political. So with that story, with the birthday party, it is a story of the girl. It is traumatic. It is. That figure is, as you said, both menacing, and also there's love, because that's what it was, and that's what all of those, even the worst of the worst situations, there's the trauma and there is the love somewhere underneath, So I'm trying to relay that, I suppose, in all the work, but in particular that I use Udine and the photo.
Yes, yeah. And also even just the title, it's a moment of celebration.
Yeah.
And also haunting.
And it came from a picture that, the reason that set me off that thinking, I found a photo, and it was of me and my own father, who we did have a really fractured, terrible relationship. And I always thought of him as this kind of monstrous figure, and slowly as I got older, I learned to understand. But I saw this photo of us, very much like the one with the cake. And we were sitting there, and I had my hand on his hand, Dini has, I think, her hand on. No, she doesn't in that one, but then we did a few, and one of them, she had the hand on the monster's hand. And I thought, oh my God, I'd never, in my head, it's never that. I didn't remember actually touching his hand. And I saw the photo when I did, and I was like, oh my God, we carry around this personal story,
Well, it's quite compelling to hear someone say, this monstrous figure, and we don't need to go into classical Freudian psychology and all of it, but this monstrous figure being your father, okay? But nevertheless, the monster then also exists across the exhibition in figures like the one behind us, which, as you can see, is a sort of also stereotypical trinity, father, mother, child. Tell us a bit about how these kind of creatures started to appear in your work, and a bit how, I'm sorry, but you can see here, certainly this one, how the female identity appears through sites like dishcloth, what's going, and how do they relate, even the positioning of the word else, quite interesting. It comes to having this figure looking at this one, then the child, the babies, and also they have different titles, Treaty and Treaty Baby, and it has a very particular title as well. So tell us a bit about this.
Well, actually, not. But I was only occurring to me now because this one and this one have like the joint title in a sense. To the Treaty and this baby, and obviously this is the baby of both of them. But this baby is purposely separate from this one, but it's like the link is in the link. You know what I mean? So it's still there. You can see very much like on these monsters in particular how bored I get. And then so they're so different, there's so many elements to them on a practical level back there. But with this one, I had made these figures have kind of existed in my head for a long time. I'd always had this idea of making these kind of monstrous figures that did exist, like, I suppose, in my own mind as like amalgamations of kind of, Holocaust victims and also Sri Lankan cultural imagery, and they just always existed. I don't know. I feel like they've always been there in a certain way. And this one, particularly the sort of domestic figure, this represents my mother, who's obviously represents my father, and this is on the back. This is called Thank You Very Much. It's got like a white cape. She's got her dishcloth and she's got the flowers falling out, and she's got her spoon that's always like it doubles up as her microphone, and it's like her voice that actually took place of that word. And this is the voice that she didn't have. So even in this situation that you get, you see this man and he's got this story. He's a Holocaust victim. I don't mean sound flippant about it, but this is the story that especially around that time, this was the story. This was the tragedy. But there's this figure who represents migrants and migration and immigrants and people who have moved, and brown and black people, and anybody that's been persecuted, whose story gets kind of completely ignored. So there's this hierarchy of trauma existing within them, and this figure is more sort of beaten down, and you see this figure is still straight up, and he still has that patriarchal power in this dynamic. So it's also about how these kind of stories and more power changes within particular structures, So I gave mum, I just had this massive urge to go make this massive urge to get dish cloth. My mum, I ran to my mum's house, I need a dish cloth. I didn't know what I was doing with it. And I perhaps it's the flowers that she never had, with all the flowers, and it's called Thank You Very Much because my mum was obsessed with Elvis Presley when she was young, and she had this dream of marrying this Elvis Presley, and it's very that kind of story. But it's that story, isn't it, of a brown girl in Sri Lanka with working class, they didn't have very much at all. My mum's mum paid for their family by teaching local girls to crochet, and they didn't have very much to do. She had this dream, so she ran into this absolute crazy story traumatically without any sense of knowing. Sorry, Mum, but without any sense of knowing. And it's like that those kind of stories get missed when we're talking about immigration, when we're talking get these people out of the country. You don't understand what these people are doing. Even if you look at a situation, you think from the outside, well, he came to a lovely middle class family in Sri Lanka, we think what they're doing, but no, these situations that they're only doing, they turn them monsters. She has all this trauma as well to live with. So she has her own monsters,
So I think what also is interesting is two things. One is, although it's very rooted on personal stories, and welcome to this psychiatric therapy session. But it doesn't have to be that way. The cape, yes, we don't know. We know through the artist Shirani Bolle that the cape speaks to this idea of marrying Elvis Presley, but it's kind of metaphor of the dream that someone with this what is known as the global south comes to Europe. It's kind of pursuing this dream of better life or migration. Yeah. And the patriarchal relationship between men and women is quite well represented here, just with the position. So it's what is interesting is how the work has such a strong personal connection, but speaks to more broader issues and ideology. But also in terms of the practice itself, looking at the internal workings of the practice. They are presented for the first time as a trinity, and they were not even made at the same time necessarily.
No.
So this is also part of the dialogue in making the exhibition, how to present this work, and then by bringing them together this way, it's kind of like it's a circle that comes to an end in terms of your thinking, but also it's how we can convey the meaning that we attach to the work by putting that together. And physically, the connection through the cloth, which you can describe after, the type of cloth we are looking at, it's also for the first time put together. So bringing them together even as a chain, kind of, more metaphorically, sort of the fabric, it's also important. Tell us about this type of cloth then.
So, like a lot of the material is sari material.
Sorry, but explain what is that.
So sari would be the clothes that you would wear in Sri Lankan, so it's the things you wrap around as a big sheet of material. So some of it was given to my mum, some of it was given to my mother-in-law, some of it was mine. I got from Sri Lanka. But another thing about fabrics is a lot of the clothes are fast fashion clothing.
Yeah.
And like a lot of fast fashion is made in Sri Lanka in the sweatshops. And like there was a way of what I thought about when I made the things is like it makes me feel like it's a collaboration with like a lot of specifically female artists in Sri Lanka who might not like be considered artists. They considered, I'm just making whatever for pretty little thing, and they get their thing. But it's like they contributed to the making of this art.
Yeah. So that's also quite interesting. There's a lot of artists in the world today, contemporary, diasporic, let's just use this word, and they refer to this contemporary and historical connection between North and South and Europe and former colonized entities through labor and materials. A lot of them speak to colonial times, but some speak to the economic forces of today, which we ignore, particularly in a country like Ireland, where, say, one of the forefronts of fast fashion is from this country, pennies and so on, and we don't really think that so much sometimes. Another interesting thing is that sometimes the works are very textile heavy, but they exist as kind of soft, sensuous bodies that you almost even feel the temptation to touch. Some of the textile pieces then have more fragmented, formless forms, like the one behind us there. And some of them have text incorporated. So that one has text incorporated, but a lot of the other works that are textile based on the walls almost look like banners, like that could be used as slogans or political messages or others. Tell us how the text then appeared in your work as well.
So text has always been, I'm personally a very vocal person, so text has always been incredibly important to me. I also like sing and write and things like that, so it's like it just was a natural thing. It always existed within paintings, within whatever I made. There's always been text. But actually, when I think about, if you learn about like intergenerational trauma, they say like it's very the language that the words that people say, like they reveal so much, and I find that a really, really interesting concept. And it's like they're not necessarily, I think the carpet. That's what I was telling you about yesterday. The carpet. So the carpet says like, why don't you just leave? So when I made that, I was thinking of something that my dad would repeat quite often to my mum. Whenever like something got bad, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just leave? Why don't you just leave? And when I started to look at that phrase through this generational trauma lens, I was like, okay, well, so why is it that phrase that he said? And it's that phrase he said because that's how he would express he felt about his parents who had given him up when they got taken to Auschwitz. So even though they did that for the good of him, he was left with this feeling of why did they leave me? He would say, why did she leave me? Why did she leave me? Right? And he's saying that he would repeat that to my mum in this like aggressive way that we would consider abusive. So that's interesting politically because it makes me think. I said to Miguel in the message morning, what I've been thinking about. He said, "Oh, Ireland, we're full. Ireland is full." okay, so what are they full of? What are those people full of? They must be full of some sort of emotion, rage, like what is it? And that's how you look at these things. So I find words so interesting because they reveal so much. It's not actually what a thing said, it's like what is underneath what a thing said. But we have to look at the words in order to find it.
But you also play with words, like, for instance, tell us what's written in this one.
This is get free one by one.
Okay, get free one by one, which is of course playing with this buy two.
Buy one, get one free.
So and there's a lot of play with words, kind of humoristically or ironically, kind of using short, catchy phrases that look like words or publicity.
Yeah, it's using the language of like today, which is like immediate, like garish, advertorial language, and like twisting on its head. You know, buy one get one free is like the actual slogan. It's like, oh, you know, keep buying, keep buying, keep buying. It's like it's very like, and why it's like get free one by one. It's like when you're sold something, they're like trying to sell you like in a sense of like your freedom, your liberty. Oh, get these new shoes. That's it. My life's going to be changed. I get this new outfit. You've got this feeling that you're going to get this like liberated, like freedom, this newness. It's like that doesn't exist. They're selling you this thing, and so they're what they're actually saying when they say buy one get one free. They're saying, oh well, get free one by one. But if you can't get free one by one, you need to get free one.
So it's kind of like you know, this consumerist drive that you feel. But some other words are more kind of like, some are more, I would say, more. They really convey political vision. So in front of you, you have one that says belonging is violence.
Yeah.
Then you have one that says sworn.
Yeah.
And then you have one that says you want me for my money.
Yeah.
So, but particularly the one that says belonging is violence. Like you have one mass early work that says belong, and we talk about, you know, diasporic identities have all this sense of displacement or this tension between displacement and belonging. But then belonging is actually violence. What does that mean to you?
To me, that kind of always stemming from this question. I suppose that is to do with being multi-heritage, like mixed, and it's like and not having this sense of belonging, but also, you know, we kind of like, especially now with this like self-care thing, it's like belonging and togetherness. There's all these like kind of really like empty words. When I think of belonging, I think, well, who's being left out? If I belong in here, right, I belong to Sirius. Who doesn't belong to Sirius? Do you know what I mean? Or if I belong in this group, it's like, who isn't? So there's a violence attached to that idea. And, you know, if you think about any sort of background, or any sort of the Palestinians that, you know, what having is like, you belong to that group, you know?
And sworn is a direct reference to some policy around migration, past and present.
Past and present is making the link between the language that would have been used to describe the Jewish people being persecuted, and it's the same language it's very simple, the same language being used to describe, you know, the immigrants. And it's like, another thing is that it's in, you know, that's where the textiles work as well. It's like you're weaving it into the fabric of these everyday items, like rugs and blankets and things like that. So you don't just read the news and then step away. There's this being woven. This is a
kind of embodied this.
And this idea. We think nothing of a flood of migrants. We're like, yeah, we accept that flood. You know, like listen to the language.
Yeah. So this is even this course from, say, Thatcher in the late 70s before being elected, that was kicking up from the 60s in reference to people from the former colonies of Britain, the empire, and then it was picked up more recently within Brexit contest and more widely. So, but I just want to touch upon something else, and then we should be opening up soon, but everyone just feel free to intervene. There's also, going back to the family, and your, in fact, you have children, and you're a woman, and there's a very powerful photograph, stage image in the next door gallery, where you appear, which relates to pregnancy and miscarriage.
Yeah.
And there is sometimes these banners also appear in these images. So that one that is one saying it's a girl. Mm-hmm. We also have it exhibited upon its own. Tell us a bit about this. It kind of like you speak, even today you are speaking so much about your mother and your father, and it's almost like you are then also engaging with not just your heritage, but your descendancy. And how do you engage tells a bit, and also sexuality. There's also with reference to that. There's another banner slogan that says, "I wish you were never born." Tell us a bit about this domesticity, womanhood, questions around your body as a center of your identity and just not the mind.
Yeah, so it's a girl photo. Like, it's funny, I remember things which that photo I think is like probably one of like my favourite pieces of art. And I remember when I took it, again, just going right back to the beginning of this conversation that we had, I remember thinking like, I should kind of like that to know I should present that. I'm not sure if that's any good. It's like, it's my favourite thing. It's like, it's crazy the things that you can stop yourself from doing when they're vulnerable or when they're, But yeah, it's a photo that I took in my mother-in-law's bathroom. And it's very important in that, because in that space I was there when I had my second miscarriage, and my mother-in-law looked after me wonderfully. But it was in that bathroom that I had that miscarriage. And I had a first miscarriage in my own home. And I remember, like, I don't, sorry, trigger warning to anybody who's experienced this. I know it's a difficult topic. But I remember when I had the first miscarriage, having this very, like, animal, like, feeling in my body. And because I was at home, I remember just being like, and like kind of screaming. And it was so bizarre. I've never felt that. And I've had a baby already, and I ended up with a cesarean, but I've been through kind of labour, so I've done a lot of screaming and I've done a lot of these kind of female things, but this was like something else. I've never experienced it. And the second time I had a miscarriage when I was in my mother-in-law's house, there was like this, obviously, like, now my mother-in-law's amazing, but I was withholding something that you can't be screaming like that in the middle of somebody else's house. Now, I probably could, to be honest. But my own time was, self-conscious and But I was there, and at that, almost trying to hold in that experience, like, made me realise, like, who we are as people who birth other people, and also people whose bodies kill other people who couldn't exist on the earth, and I just felt like this weird power that I never felt. I was like, oh my God, like, this womanhood that I thought I'd experienced and grown up with felt like something else. And I was like, that's where the picture was born of this kind of power. So I'm in the picture, I'm kind of this like provocative, like sexy position. Because it was like, this was like this thin version of womanhood that we've been given, that is like, you're this thing, and it's a girl, and it's so lovely. But then the picture is that, I have blood, and I have all these things, and it's the reality of, like, what it means to be a woman, and it's much more animalistic, it's much more, so it's like, it's really I shouldn't say incredible, I can say incredible experiences of, like, experiencing yourself,
In terms of artistry and performance art, particularly women, you use like the exposition, presentation of the body and fluids. It's really cohort from the 70s up to today. So I always read the work through this lens as well. So that leads us to my final moment here. You also were here in September last year, and you presented a performance called Comfort Fruit, which said a presentation prior to that in the context of the Convergence Festival by Live Art Ireland. Tell us a bit, and we have here this the stage / props of that performance just over there. And that performance speaks a bit to something you already mentioned here, which is this something around self-help, which is so pervasive today, and this.
So it's like the individualistic
approach to life, but also technology, scrolling. There's a lot of emojis here as well. Sometimes they appear. And that particular piece, there's lots of sarcasm against brands like Apple and say Coca-Cola or Starbucks, whatever. But tell us a bit how that existence in the media sphere and how they engage with it also, or it's a preoccupation that you have, a concern, or it's relevant to you.
I suppose it was just born out again, like out of like real experience of being somebody that like definitely goes on social media and like, oh, we shouldn't do this, let's do this, and I'm not. This isn't like a judgment of like anybody. I'm part of this experience, you know, I'm part of this time and I'm a product of this time, but I have it was a real self-awareness of that and just realizing like so that the futility of how we exist now in terms of protest and how the art of protest, if you will, has to go beyond what we're doing currently because we're in a specific trap, many of us.
But are you referring specifically to situations where people go online on social media and say, let's boycott this, let's protest against that, but it's quite safe doing that from a Western perspective?
100%, yeah. I mean, like, definitely that's part of it, but yeah, I mean, definitely that's part of it, but it's also, it's our distraction, it's how it's with that going online and doing that, we just get a few likes and we're like, I feel really good, but it's like, have we really done anything? Like, have we really, and I mean myself included, and it's not that, I don't think that's a judgment, I mean that as a desperation to want to do something effective, but a recognition that we're stuck to our chair, as I am in comfort food, doom scrolling, going, yeah, and then I can't, in the performance, I'm trying to sing the famous protest song by Billie Holiday, Strange Fruit, the most arguably famous protest song that ever exists, but I cannot complete the song without sitting back down and getting back on my phone, so I keep returning to it, doing this, and my mind is, you know, it's like, how effective can these things be when we keep back and forth, you're ugly, you're fat, you're, you know, whatever it is, it's like, oh God, yeah, I should do that. It's back and forth the whole time for a few likes and a quick serotonin boost, you know?
Yeah. And you also produced for the exhibition, do you mind if I call this from you for a second? And so you also produced this, and there are copies outside, so everyone is welcome to take one. Again, so, and we have so it's like a zine, but we also have the prints presented as prints inside those vitrines there, in case you want to see them at a bigger scale. And so tell us a bit, so the kind of the DIY aspect of making like zines that not fast, but like very informal type of publication.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot, there's lots of writing again, and imagery, but interestingly, there is imagery that looks archival, like personal albums or stuff you find at home.
Yeah.
And like, for instance, this one here.
Yeah.
And tell us a bit how this idea for the zine appeared, and what kind of imagery we are seeing here, and then there is text that you wrote that you overlay on it.
So a lot of the imagery is, archival photography from actually before I was born. So that's like a picture of my mum in Sri Lanka that my dad would have taken. That's a picture that friends took of her in Sri Lanka. That's my cousins in Sri Lanka. And there's like different, archival photos. And actually, like the text, the majority of the text in this is like something I wrote for like another performance piece that was not been created, but I was just thinking about like belonging again, and like I love the text in this, so please read it in Gal, but it's kind of about who belongs in a gallery space in the first place, and it's like about how a lot of the people in these pictures are artists. Like a lot of my family in Sri Lanka are artists, but they wouldn't be considered artists. Like, and it's not until is in the gallery, and then but these people they're excluded from the gallery. So it's like I just found it too funny to kind of, to make that discussion happen within a gallery space. I find that so it's about, I guess, the idea of what makes real art, and then that reads into like the fact that this is, like you say, fanzine, kind of quite easy, quite cheap to make. Like there's sketches that like girls have done that just throw away, there's scribbles, there's the photos, even it's a photo of a photo, but it's like I took it badly, it's like this idea of like ease, and not belonging, and like it doesn't need to be something difficult and late,
So it's kind of moving the conversation from belonging from, let's say, ethnic cultural heritage background into actually being an artist. Do I belong to this sector or not, and how do I sit with it, or how much I am outside of it? But I think it's also, I'd like to recognize something that he said. I'm not sure he said it to me, or I'm not sure if I read it on your Instagram, or it's actually, but you say it's you and in collaboration with your father.
Yeah, so he was an artist. So so there's a lot of the photos are taken by him. He was a brilliant artist, but he couldn't do it because his trauma was just like all consuming. So I wanted to have that. I thought that was an interesting thing to do, with like homage and to collaborate with him, to have this like photos. You know, he is where he belongs in the gallery.
So it's a sort of distribution of authorship, which is also quite common in some types of art, and particularly art that someone speaks to gender and traditions of labor and society with gender and so on. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'd like to open up as just questions. Anything that like to do?
Welcome to the trauma. That's what you'll get.
Yeah, and thank you so much for making all this work for me. And
Hi.
again, relate to all the love of it.
I'm ready.
I might have a gift on that.
Yes, I
But I want to ask you about the use of humor in your work, because a lot of it is really what granular your performance, and there's obviously very not funny aspect as well. But some of the more kind of laughing, like I love that in art, but it's often almost excluded from institutional art world. So I just wonder about your approach to use of humor in your work.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Like you kind of answered it. It's like I love humor. Like I just think like for me the things that like hit me the hardest are always funny. Like you can say so much truth whilst making it funny, and also if you make something funny and then you tell the truth hits harder, you know. But also the idea that it is excluded from these kinds of like institutional like places makes it even more desirable for me. And I'm like immediately, I want to do that then. If you're saying no, that's like a driving force in me. That's like, well, I think, well, why? Like, why can't humour? Why can't bright colours? Why can't cartoon imagery? Why are we saying this is silly? Why is that silly? You know, that's what I'm interested in.
Okay.
Yeah, fantastic. That'd be funny. So thanks. I'm always thrilled when someone says I'm funny.
I think what's really interesting is when you're a child, you're oblivious to so much, and when you're adults, you can understand things about your past, or you could see it in other kind of contexts. Mm-hmm. And you were kind of collaborating with your daughter or daughters with some of these.
Yeah.
And I suppose what was that relationship like? Obviously, you knew certain things that she didn't, and what was the kind of play like there?
Yeah, she doesn't know. Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. But she doesn't know. Obviously, I've been really conscious to how to I guess speak about this kind of background with the girl. Dini's now 8, so there's like slowly things being said, but she doesn't really know, the context. But I suppose what is helpful in that is that she doesn't understand the idea that I'm creating around the monsters, and we kind of say it in a fun way, but you've got to hug these monsters, and they love these things that look peculiar and strange, and in quotation marks, and not necessarily beautiful, and all those things. So it's like that's the kind of maybe that's why as well I'm doing it. I don't know. Yeah.
And I have a second follow-up question then. So, and like they're very used to this, it's fantastic. And what's it like for their friends?
Oh, their friends love it. It's like imagine their friends are like the guy, their parents are like we work in an office, and they're like, what's that? I mean, and apparently when Tina was telling me that her teacher was like telling all the class, and I was like, oh my, most of the friends absolutely love it. Because, children, I was actually even thinking I should try and contact the school and tell them to bring a class out or something, because kids respond so well to so much art. We underestimate, I think, children and what they respond to and what they see, how well they read art. Dini, even though she doesn't know the ins and outs, she'll get the work, she'll get what's going on, in some way or form. So yeah.
I was just going to say, a story came to me when I was looking at the bathroom image, and I just remember that when I was about 5, I found my mother's tampons in a cupboard, and I thought, wow, this is really interesting. There's these little rolls and these iron tubes, and so I made it all into doll's house furniture. And my mum, so I was the next to my mum, and my mum was so furious. She was I never understood. And then when I saw the picture, that little story, it was so funny.
Yeah, but that's really interesting as well, because it's like maybe she, like kind of maybe shame she didn't want to have the conversation with you, or she wasn't prepared. Yeah, you're too young. I mean, I traumatized my girls the other day with that conversation.
I think if I could just ask about kind of the short films that you had on display. I couldn't remember the names, I'm so sorry. But the word like the mask and the performance and how that ties back into as the performance that you just did, and also your conversation about the mask and masking as well.
Yeah, it ties in loads of actually masking.
So the piece you're talking about is
The
called the show?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
You should describe what.
okay. So the show is. How do I describe what's happening?
No, I mean.
So there's a pink monster in the show, and the thing starts with her kind of like singing a song on like kind of a shabby kind of stage, and the performance, she's singing the song, I'm gonna die one day, I'm gonna die, and this song that she's performing in front of my sister-in-law Miguel, who was in white face makeup as this sort of like MC character in a suit. And then my mum was in it too, in a sari, and then there's a fake man. It's not real, but so this is her audience, and she's performing, and it's like kind of dreamlike, and then this kind of, it's very short. Towards the end of it, you see my daughter again playing with this pink monster, a toy version of that one that's just been singing, and then you see sort of a mother figure kind of crazy at her, and then at the end you'll see the mother in bed listening to a meditation, and it's very much about masking. It ties back to like a reoccurring kind of panic attack that I've had throughout my whole life. People try to like different therapists or like self-help, people try to like trace it back to like certain things, and there was like never this kind of like answer for this thing. And the reason it's called a show, it's like about this kind of character putting on a performance of being all right, and in the film I'm kind of like questioning like how that kind of like performance affects like your internal kind of system, and what like scars or marks that might leave on the person. And then at the end, when you see that it's the girl kind of like playing with the doll and the mother figure there, it's like you're this figure trying to stop this intergenerational trauma kind of passing on. So it's a question about those things. So it's very much that last thing, because it's like, that's essentially the core of the piece.
And you said,
Hey.
And that film is looping with another one, so we paired another one which is called Deal, which is where the music is for actually the ballad is not the right word, but plays a stronger role.
Yeah.
And where you appear also as like a sexy woman singing. Can you tell us about Deal?
It's kind of like this, it's obviously a very like obvious like comment on like consumerism and like capitalism, actually late stage capitalism and the chaos that we're in. I'm directly referencing Sally Bowles from Cabaret, and I don't know if anybody knows Cabaret, but the time that film is about. But it's about the rise of fascism and this idea in Cabaret that the show must go on. So they're performing this thing, and at the end, the MC of Cabaret gets taken off to the camps. It's this very poignant for now film. So I'm referencing this kind of like out of control Sally Bowles type figure, and I'm in the song Deal, I'm singing about a car. Did you see my car? Did you see my new car? Did you see my car? Such a deal. And it was like this thing that kind of occurred to me about how we're almost in this stage, or we are in this stage where almost the object doesn't matter anymore, and it's like the object in the film, you see no car. at all. You just see this person existing in this, like, in no space as well. Like, my body is not really in a space. I'm kind of like superimposed onto like the river in Limerick, or just in black next to a painting I've done. I don't actually kind of like, I'm not grounded anywhere in reality. And I'm just telling you about this car, and it's very like provocative and sexy. I don't know. Good. But you know, and it's all about this imagery, and it's like this empty feeling that you're kind of left with, but the thing doesn't exist, and we're still like talking about it, we're still like going after it, we're still desiring after, you know. Again, that reference in Margaret Thatcher in there with them, the object is to change the soul. I'm in front of it, sort of like, you know, posing. It's like we've gone so far beyond that. She won, you know. She did change the soul. The soul's been changed that we're talking about cars that don't even have to be there. I mean.
So those two, sorry.
So one was saying something. Yeah.
So those two films appear in the center, and to the left we have the image of the miscarriage situation, and then on the opposite we have this other tapestry piece, textile piece, that says sex terminate, and also has a body, looks almost like a kind of neon sign for a bar or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
exactly, yeah.
Again, like the pairing of the words kind of try to speak to each other.
Yeah.
But that's so yeah. So that's kind of culture. Subculture also appears a lot. That maybe this is not how you thought about it, but I saw it also about how within a patriarchal context there's an objectification of the female body, and how that is very strong on, say, Hollywood cinema and visual pleasure associated with that. It's very part of a feminist critique of...
Yeah, for sure. Like, that's exactly what. It's the sex terminates that you're exterminating yourself with sex, like, not the act of sex, but yeah, sex, you know.
And just to conclude with a sex tape, there is also a piece that we have on display, which are basically a top and the bikini top.
I can't tell. Yeah.
So tell us how. Tell us how you also use not just, say, for instance, textiles as banners or textiles as reference to signs, but actually pieces of clothing, and they relate, of course, to the body. So goes back to what you were saying, you know, like within the current economics, you have the art workers or the workforce, say, in Sri Lanka, contributing artistic stuff here in the West, but it's also about using everyday objects as they are and convert and turn them into something else through your making, but the meaning associated with that is still present through the object itself.
And it's like with that bikini as well, you know, the bikini says like, help me. And it's like this very like, and it's got like these pink bows, and it's very like kind of decorative bikini, and then it's got like these giant boobs that kind of stick out. They don't stick out as much in the bikinis have been squashed, but they, you know, it's very, very kind of like sexual in its like presentation, and it's very like stereotypical of what, you know, females, I suppose, you know, this idea that's put on females. And I was just thinking, that your internal world, you know, help me. Like when you're like on display in this way, it's like you don't always feel like that. And certainly for me, it's like I've spent you know, that's been like a journey myself to like own my own like sexuality in a way. And I think that's true for a lot of people, to not have to do this posturing of this thing, you know, not have to be helping in the bikini, you know. I mean, I'd love to make a line of helping bikini. I think it's brilliant on the beach, you know.
Any questions or yeah?
Thank you so much for the talk. I kind of missed 12 minutes, so I apologize if you touched me.
Okay.
I've got a question around where you were talking towards the end about belonging and access to being an artist in the gathering space. But I just wonder, like, the topics that you touched on are so universal, and probably the people that get affected by it don't have access to gathering space.
Yeah.
I don't know how you create that bridge if you ever, you know.
Well, that's like so. I mean, I think that's why I have done and intend to do more not just trying to be in a gallery, like not making that my absolute aim. I absolutely love being in Sirius. Like Miguel knows this. Like when I first came in here, I was like, oh my god, this is where I need to be. But it was like, I'm not saying that I don't want to be in places, but it was like it was really a meeting of mine. Like I just felt like such a connection with Miguel, with the place, and it's like this is the right place. But like I'm not on a course to want to just be in the top gallery of where I need to be. Like I want to make the work I want to make, and I want to do the things that matter to me, and I'd love to do them on the platforms that will reach the biggest people. But I'm not chasing whoever. I'm not asking to be part of something that they don't want. If they don't see who I am and what I bring to the table, I don't care to be at that table, because that's not going to benefit anything that I'm talking towards. I'm going to lose nothing. All I get is like, oh, you've been in, whoa. I don't care. I don't care. I'm too old to care. Like, I want to make the work I want to make, and I want to make it enjoying how we've enjoyed and having the discussions that we've had, and with the people that absolutely know what the hell I'm talking about. And that's all that matters to me.
I suppose like, it's around like, do you ever go on the street?
Yeah, I have done in the past, and that's what I mean. So it's like, so that's what exactly what I mean. So saying that, I have done, and I will that continue to like find these avenues that like will be like.
Because I actually think
Yeah.
the word so striking.
And you know, it's funny. I have done that before, and there's been people in sort of more like the places in the let's say in the art scene who said, "Don't do that." And I thought, no, I want to do it. So don't tempt me.
I'm working on a street.
Right, yeah. Right, exactly. No, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Actually, it's kind of related to that one. And it strikes me that, you know, like your visual art you do, the sculpture you do, those are kind of pieces of work that you do when you can cast them out for people to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for people to interpret as they wish to interpret it,
Yes.
see what they get out of it. But the performance is something quite different.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of, is it that you don't want people just to interpret, you actually want to go out there and more actively or proactively put out the message and have an interaction. Okay. And also I was struck when I came in and you were doing the performance earlier on, what's your expectation of the audience? Are you looking for a reaction? Are you looking for an engagement, an acceptance and understanding? So do you see the two types?
I totally see what you're saying.
As complementary? That the visual on its own isn't enough. You have to do the.
Oh well, yeah. So that's. I mean, yeah. I am so I suppose energetic when it comes to art that nothing is enough. So it's like I want to do as much as I physically, mentally can do in terms of like making, performing, everything that I feel like I'm able to do. I want to do. I find it impossible. Me and my husband have many discussions of, you know, maybe you should try to just stay on this, but there's so much. And I realised instead of trying to stay doing just the one thing, what I actually need to do is embrace the fullness of like who I am, and do as much as I can, make it cohesive, but do as much of it as I can. And then when it comes to the performance, like, I don't think I have the intention whether to, I totally get what you're saying, whether to like leave it open to interpretation. Now the performances are very direct and clear, like this is what it is. I don't know whether that's necessarily my intention or whether that's just how these things come out when I devise them. I would be certainly open to doing things that were less on the nose, but like these last two that I've done have been quite on the nose and quite like what they are. You know, there's no way to really interpret them in another way. There's something about the obviousness though I like as well. Like I think that's like quite interesting. Like I think there's something I'm a direct person, you know, so it's hard for me to get away from that. I'm not very mysterious. Like I am what I am, and it's like, so when I'm like sort of performing, you do really kind of get like the real me, you know. and that is somebody who will shout at you about politics or something, you know. So yeah, but I would be open to like either. It's just I think it's just how it comes out, you know.
True. Yeah. So, okay, and just to wrap up, so what's next? Like this opens today, and we have an event on the 4th of April.
We have an event on the 4th of April.
And so everyone come and you start doing the next piece, or
Yeah, so I have another exhibition opening later in the year in Clare, but I will go home and tomorrow I'll be crocheting something and God knows what it will be. That's how it works, you know. I'm constantly making. So yeah, what it will be, it will be.
And in terms of your own, say, personal and professional development, having had this opportunity, any thoughts on that, or?
It's amazing. Do you know what it's really made me feel is really, I get, again, like I say, it's like, you know, the way that my neurodivergent brain works is I get very bored very quickly. So that includes I get very bored very quickly with my own work. So it's like after a few weeks, I'm like, you like that. And actually what doing this, you know, with you, collaborating with you and you placing the pieces with other pieces and helping me understand how they speak to each other has helped me embrace those things that I'm just away with, you know, sometimes, and that's because of my own, you know, mind. But it's like, it's made me go, no, you know, these things do matter just as much, you know. So for my professional development, that's been like extraordinary because I've got a mountain of things that I, you know, that feel like these don't mean anything, but they do, you know.
Yeah, that's important. Thank you so much for the opportunity of having this dialogue and journey with you. Thank you all for joining us today and supporting Shirani. For those who want to stay behind and celebrate, we are going to the Rob Roy, which is like 5 minutes walking distance from here, and we'll offer you the first drink. And so you just need to stay around with us until another 5 minutes, and then we'll go there. It's like 7 to 4, so let's just say at 4 there. Everyone is invited, so there's no like you come, we come. And you can feel free to take a fanzine. We need to acknowledge the support of the Arts Council of Ireland and Cork County Council for Sirius Arts Centre, and also particularly for Shirani's professional development and the realization of some of the new work. Also, so the Arts Council of Ireland, it's crucial in making these things happen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.